Welcome to The Art of Adventure. This is episode 248 with Rachel Rudwall. The Art of Adventure is the podcast that helps you travel the world, run your business, and embark on an epic quest. I'm your host, lead explorer and guide, Derek Loudermilk. You can head over to derekloudermilk.com for the show notes for this episode with Rachel Rudwall, also known as Rachel Roams. Rachel is a TV host, Emmy-nominated producer, travel blogger, influencer, and all-around fun travel personality. She's got over 350,000 followers across her social media platforms. She's done creative projects in over 70 countries and all 7 continents. One of my favorite things about this episode is learning how Rachel thinks about herself as a vehicle for storytelling. It's not about her as the host, it's about how she can best transmit the story of the place where she is to the end viewer or the end reader. And I ask her for some advice about my upcoming transformative experiences book project and how she would think about making that interesting as a storyteller. And I also ask her advice about where my family should live for several months in Europe. And she tells some stories of her favorite countries there and around the world. And she also talks about her evolution of a storyteller, in particular how she pitches ideas for the projects that she wants to work on and is evolving to be less attached to certain specific outcomes, which, of course, as adventurers, we all know the outcome is not going to be what you expect. So I know you guys are going to love her. Without further ado, here is Rachel Rudwall. Welcome, Rachel, to The Art of Adventure.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So let's just jump right in with some try to get some travel stories here. Since I know you have a lot. Do you remember a particular smell? What is the strongest smell or most memorable smell you smelt on a trip?
Interesting. So there are 2 things that immediately come to mind. Obviously, you might have heard this. I say obviously, but scent is very closely associated with memory, right? So if you smell something 10 years later, it'll transport you to the place where you originally smelled it. There was a little vial of perfume that a family member gave me when I was going to study abroad in Spain. And when I smelled anything like it, I am back in the apartment that I was living in with a host mother in Valencia. And I can feel the way I felt then, even though it was years ago, just because of that scent of perfume.
Wow. That's wonderful. I also lived in Spain. It was one of my first times living abroad. Where
were you?
I was in Malaga, southern Spain.
Ooh.
And that was in 2007. When were you there?
I was there 2006. I was there my sophomore year of college.
Right on. Okay, so I think I might be a year older than you. That was a very booming time in the Spanish economy. As I recall.
Yeah. It has changed.
Yeah, I guess they took a little step backwards.
Yeah, Europe's had a tough time, as much of the global economy has. There was a time several years ago where over 50% of young people were unemployed. I think that number is a bit lower now, but it still prolongs, for example, the amount of time that people are living with their parents, because it's okay to live with your family until you're married. In Spain, yeah. It's common. And there are also a lot more entrepreneurial young people who are participating in things like the sharing economy because they cannot get traditional jobs, which I think happened here when everything slowed in 2008.
Yeah.
It forced people to start getting creative.
There was a time I was in Boulder, Colorado. It was about 2010 maybe, and there's a dozen of us sitting around the table on a Tuesday afternoon drinking beer or something, and I said, okay, raise your hand if you have a job. And we all looked around. Nobody had a job. And it was like, oh my gosh.
How are we paying for this beer? Is there a back door?
It was actually free beer from the brewery next door. We had gone on a tour and they were like, gave us too much beer. So we had to take it home. Yeah.
And that's why everyone was so honest about not having a job, was the extra beer.
Okay. Most memorable hotel experience.
Oh, this is funny. It's coming up not because it was my favorite hotel, but because I was talking about it the other day with someone. I stayed in an old prison in Switzerland. And I'm creeped out by stuff like that. I believe ghosts are real. My husband does not. He's always like, oh, really? They're real? I'm like, yes, they are. Thank God we don't live in a haunted building. So places like old prisons or hospitals give me the heebie-jeebies.
Did you feel anything while you were there?
No, but I probably made stuff up in my head and didn't sleep.
Prison. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. What are some of the other senses? Music. Any memorable music experiences?
Yeah, Cuba is a place that is so alive, so rife with music that no matter where you are, it is. You walk down a back alley and there is a little performance going on of Guantanamera where all these little gray-haired old ladies are singing along and clapping. The car drives past you. It's got music going. You go into a museum. You can hear music from the streets going in through the open windows. It's extraordinary.
And is this coming from record players? I'm just assuming they only use old-timey type of stuff.
You know, that's a fair question. I'm sure there are CDs and cassettes and things from radios, but the cars that they drive, for example, if you have music playing in one of the old cars, I think you've got a car that's functioning pretty well because the embargo that we had, which meant that they couldn't get parts to repair the cars. They couldn't get new cars. Now, fun tip, those beautiful classic cars that you see in photographs or you see if you visit are called casually almendrones, which is like calling them almonds basically, because they're these long skinny vehicles. And I mean, they look beautiful from the outside, and then a lot of them you sit in them and there are springs poking out and somebody's jerry-rigged a small fan to the dashboard for the AC and the windows won't roll down. But it's a part of survival in Cuba to have maintained the cars to the best of their ability. And then it's also a part of the charm for somebody visiting to be like, wow, I haven't seen this many old cars ever in my life.
Yeah. It's like, I always wonder when I see a movie that's got a bunch of, it's set in the 50s or 60s and they have all the cars. I'm like, where do they all come from?
Where do they get them? Probably all from Jay Leno. Doesn't he like classic cars? They're like, listen, Jay, we're going to need 30 candy apple red cars. Yep. I bet he actually probably makes money from that, because he needs more. I've been worried about it.
Yeah, you gotta have a fleet of cars to make money these days.
Yep. Maybe that's why I'm not making as much as Jay Leno. I don't have a fleet of cars.
How about food? Any interesting food you've tried?
I've eaten weird food. Well, quote unquote weird to us food. Fish eyes in East Africa and innards in Uruguay and all sorts of things that I consider creepy crawly. When it comes to favorite foods, even foods that I consider weird or unfamiliar, Japan. It does not matter what I'm eating. I might have no clue what it is, and I will dig it. They are so good they're good at pretty much everything over there. So the presentation of food, the way that it looks, smells, tastes, all of it is pretty perfect. And you can go to a $2 soba spot. You can go to their version at Denny's, or you can go to something really high end like the sushi bar in Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and you will be eating tasty treats no matter where.
Did you go there? That's what I was going to ask if you had been there.
I haven't been to Jiro's place. No, I considered it when I was going over there with my husband. I'd been a number of times to Japan. I was like, oh, we should totally just go do dinner at Jiro's. And you got to make reservations well in advance. And it's a long process to try to get them. Apparently you can get them like you have a hotel concierge call or whatever. And we began to read a lot about it because it's something like $250 a head to eat there. And if you're spending $500 or even in our case, $500 worth of points on your credit card, you want to know a little bit about it. And at risk of over-researching, I was reading probably a third or fourth article and found that the whole dining experience lasts about 18 minutes. And I just could not bring myself to spend the amount of money that I could spend on a flight somewhere for 18 minutes. I mean, I know I'd be blissed out, but the tuna auction market, Tsukiji, where every time that I've been in Japan, I've gone for breakfast. I mean, get 7 a.m. sushi there, and it's still going to be the freshest sushi you've ever had, and you'll spend $30.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I guess now I'm on a quest to find someone that's actually eaten there to see. Because I saw that movie.
I know.
Oh, you do?
Romaru, Colette and Scott behind the travel brand Romaru, Roamaro. Wait, ROO? Yeah. So Scott and Colette are travelers. They travel together. They're super fit. They're into both fitness and travel. And they love food. And I can't remember if they went specifically to Japan to eat there or if they ate there as a result of a trip they were already taking. But when I found they'd eaten there, I was like, oh, I like you even more. Like, I already thought you were just great humans. And I love that you made this trek for food. That's so exciting.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm curious, how often are you traveling with your husband on personal trips versus work related or producing content, that kind of thing?
My husband has a normal human job, which means he has a limited amount of vacation time. And probably a lot of people listening will understand this concept that the U.S. does not have a lot of vacation time if you have a regular job. And so he's worked at his company, which is based in energy efficiency. He's worked there for 7.5 years. He's managed to get something like 3-4 weeks of vacation time. But when you consider that some of that goes to holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving or weddings, it really kind of whittles it down. And so I only travel with Todd for vacation or for pleasure a limited amount of the time. The majority of the travels that I'm doing are for work, or when they're not for work assignments, they're for play, but I'm going with other people. I can sneak Todd away every now and again. For example, last fall, I had an assignment in the Galapagos Islands, and I was like, Todd, if you're interested, I can bring a crew member with me to do the B-cam would be what it's called, the second camera operation. And he is like, yep, this is how I want to use my vacation time.
Nice. And so did he have to acquire the B-cam operating skills or?
Well, he has over the years that we've been together. So sometimes I'll, especially when I was first starting out independently after I had left producing for production companies and networks. That's how I began, by the way, for those of you listening. Hi. I have worked in media for the last 12th year and started as a producer and camera operator on network TV shows for networks like Nat Geo or Discovery Channel, History Channel. And I'd spend months in the field shooting and producing shows. A lot of manly man, testosterone-driven shows like Ice Road Truckers. And my cousin calls it Ice Truck Killers. He's like, hey, what was that show? Ice Truck Killers? I'm like, yeah, that was the one I was on. But the entire time that Todd and I have been together, he has been supportive of my not only producing content for large companies and networks, but also creating content that I value outside of that, which means sometimes we're on vacation and I'm like, I want to shoot this thing that we're doing, stand-up paddleboarding in front of a volcano. And then I'll be like, can you hold this camera for a little bit? I try not to over ask. It's his vacation time. But over the years, he has acquired the skills that it would take to be my B-cam.
That's good to know. My wife is one of those people who's like, let's just focus on experiencing this. And I'm the kind of person that if I see a beautiful shot, I want to take it. And so we have this sort of like, are we going to have the camera out or not kind of debate.
And it depends on the moment. I mean, every time that you ask yourself that, I think it's an important question because you're not assuming one way or the other. Todd is not there to document things. And he has helped me to become more attuned with my sense of what's really important to document and when documenting it is going to take away from the moment. And if I'm there for a job, there being wherever, if I'm traveling for a job, it's my job to get it. Well, it's through photography, through video, through writing. But if I'm traveling for personal reasons, I'm getting much better at learning where to draw the line. And that also helps you to not ask too much of other people. When they're there for vacation, you're not like, oh, can you like get a shot of me? It's funny. You know, in the Instagram husbands thing that went viral.
Yes.
Did you watch that? Okay. So Todd used to joke. He's like, I'm such an Instagram husband. Until I had a revelation. I am an Instagram wife. Todd is my model. Todd never takes pictures of me. Todd is always the tiny silhouette on the mountaintop looking like a badass. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a picture of him and make him look like a hero. And the table's turned. I tell you what, I'm an Instagram wife, and he can no longer claim that. He's very patient with me. He's patient while I ask him to model. Okay, can you run out on that rock? Like, you're there already, just 5 steps further. But a lot of the pictures historically on my account were of Todd. You know, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I guess it is a lot easier because you already have the camera and the shooting skills, and you want to put someone in the shot. So
I'm like, you're already there. Do you mind being an elegant gazelle running across the plains for me? You're doing that already. I'm just going to set up the shot real quick.
So you're both the personality that people identify, Rachel Romes, but you're also behind the camera. You've got the experience shooting and producing and all those things. What's your relationship with both sides of the camera?
Interesting question. I think that in order to be effective on either side, it's important to know what it's like on the opposite side. So when I was coming up learning to produce and shoot, I wanted to be able someday to effectively host as an on-camera presenter too. But I needed to understand how to frame the shot, how to pan, how to rack focus, how to whatever, all the little nuanced things about getting a moment on camera. And when I was producing, it helped me to understand how to ask questions, how to string together sound beats or story arcs or any of those things, so that eventually, if I wanted to also host on camera, I knew what the production would need. Meaning, I knew how to phrase an answer. I knew how to coherently put together different ideas that sometimes might even seem disparate, totally unlinked, and put it all together in the name of storytelling. I have more fun in front of the camera because I just get to interact. I mean, it's such a treat to interact with the world and the people in it, eat the food, try the clothes, whatever it is that project will have me do. That's fun. But being on the other side of the camera can be a really essential skill for what I do, being able to step behind it, produce, and whether you're in front of or behind the camera, it's important to remember that it is not about you. A lot of times people get confused. Whether they're the storytellers behind the camera or they're in front of the camera, they think it's about them because they're making it or they're communicating on behalf of a subject or whatever. But it really isn't about you. Your point of view, yes, is important, but you're there to facilitate the transmission of information between a place and an audience or an idea and a set of people. And if you think it's about you, you've lost sight. So either side, that rule applies.
That's a wonderful concept to remember. I had a publisher remind me recently, the book is about the reader. You know, what's in it for them? Like, oh yeah, good point.
And think about it in a really tangible way. When you read an Instagram post and somebody's all like me, I, you don't feel connected, even if they're saying something really fascinating. But if they ask questions or they say you or they say we, it's an invitation. So they're bringing you in instead of closing you out just through the words that they use. And so you can start to see it in every conversation that you're having when somebody just wants to talk about themselves or is open to dialogue or is actually opening an invitation for you to talk about yourself. And they can all serve purposes at different points. But if it's your goal to be a storyteller, it's not about you, even if the point of view that invites people in is yours.
Mm-hmm. When you're hosting, when you're in front of the camera, and you're thinking about transmitting that story, how does that affect what you're actually doing?
I need to not get in my own head, not worry about how my hair looks, forget the fact that I might have spinach in my teeth. I mean, if I'm really there in service of the story, then I need to just move with the space, with the energy, with the people who are there with me. And you have to give more energy than you would in a typical conversation. And it might feel unnatural, like giving 110% energy instead of 100. You might feel like, oh, I'm already ramped up energy. And then you watch playback and you're like, wow, that seemed a lot duller than I remember. So you have to play in the space. And you also have to be generous to everything around you. You have to really listen instead of always talking. You have to read people's expressions instead of assuming you know what they're going to say. And you have to interact with what's around you. If the weather changes or there's a car horn blaring or whatever, you can't get so in your head that you fail to identify and recognize those things for your audience, because your audience is going to hear or see them. If there's a car horn going and you're so into what you're saying that you fail to recognize it, your audience is going to go, what's going on with the car horn? Why isn't this person identifying this thing that's so aggravating and distracting? And it's because you've gotten trapped in your own head. So it's a matter of kind of stripping things away and being like, I'm going to be the most that I can be in terms of facilitating without being about me.
And did you have someone teach you these skills? And do you watch footage to keep improving?
Yes, both. Yes to both questions. One, do I keep watching? Yeah. Sometimes, much to my dismay, I'll see things that I'm doing that aren't serving the story. I'll be like, oh my God, why am I talking out of the side of my mouth? Or I'm using hands too much. I'm a very handsy talker, right? Here I am, like we're right now, and my arms are flying out to the sides of my body. They're flailing around. It's not quite jazz hands. It's more octopus arms. And if you do stuff like that in a normal scenario, fine. But if you do that on camera, that is distracting. When it comes to training, I took classes. I went to weekly classes to learn how to be a more effective host. You have a sense of what you think's important, and then you learn that a lot of it is either unimportant or mistaken or whatever. And that's the type of space where you learn it's not about you. That's the type of space where you learn to talk about what's going on around you if something crazy or distracting happens. You learn to be a generous co-host. When someone's forgotten their line, you step in, you kind of help, or be a good interviewer. Ask questions, listen instead of talk. All of those things might sound intuitive, but they're not. It's very easy for people to get clammy in front of a camera because they know people are going to see it. And so to be trained out of your own fears, your own discomfort, and to be trained into those skills that you can have ready at the snap of your fingers, that's important.
Yeah, I sort of dream of doing more video content. I know that people really love it, and obviously Instagram is super popular. And I have a little bit of the improv skills. I did some improv in college, but I feel like there's probably some more training around, the ability to transmit a story. Who's your favorite person that either Instagrammer or TV host or whoever that you just really look to, like they're really good at their craft?
So before I answer that, yes, of course there's more you can do to learn, because we can always be better. When we assume we think we have the answers or know exactly how to do things, it's problematic. it's not to say you shouldn't feel confident in your abilities, but there's always more to learn. There are always people to learn from. There are always skills that can help us better adapt, better tell a story, better communicate with our audience. So anytime you think, I wonder if there's more for me to learn, even if you're already really good at something, hell yeah, there's more for you to learn. People that I look up to are in spaces like National Geographic, and where they've learned to tell stories that are really difficult and make them entertaining, make people want to stay put and watch and not feel like it's homework to learn about the world. My favorite host in terms of skills, personality, dynamic, empathy would be Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe hosted about 1 trillion episodes of Dirty Jobs. Then he hosted a show on CNN called called Somebody's Gotta Do It. And now he has a Facebook show called Returning the Favor. Look up Returning the Favor. It's a really cool, feel-good, 20-ish minute per episode series where the producers have identified people doing something good for their communities or the world around them who maybe don't have the support that they need. And Mike is somebody who is immensely skilled at a number of things. One, lifting energy up through humor. Did your light go out?
My light just the sunset in my little room here. This episode is brought to you by Publishizer, a crowdfunding literary agency that helps speakers, thought leaders, and authors get their books discovered by traditional publishers. A couple previous guests from this show, Colleen Schell, Melissa Lynn Stengel, and myself, have launched campaigns with Publishizer. And that's how I was able to get a publishing deal for Superconductors, because we ran a successful campaign on Publishizer. The best part is that it's totally free, and you can go and their team will help you on this step-by-step process to write your 1,000-word book proposal, and they'll match you with a publisher that fits your topic. So if you want to do that, all you need to do is go to get.publishizer.com/pitch and put in the code adventure. That's get.publishizer.com/pitch, and your special code is adventure.
So Mike is really good at lifting people's spirits, lifting the energy in a scene through humor. You mentioned improv. He improvises beautifully. He's also not afraid to look silly. So when he's making people laugh, when he's making jokes, it's never at the expense of others. It's never something that's really going to break them down. He is more likely to make fun of himself, kind of poke fun at a process. And so his humor helps them facilitate people feeling really open. He's empathetic in a way that makes people feel seen. And through those skills, improvising, being empathetic, being funny, he helps unravel or peel back layers on processes or places that you might not have ever considered were interesting. And at the end, you're like, wow, that was a cool experience.
Wow. Good job, Mike. I'll have to go and look at some more of his stuff.
He's very, very good at what he does.
Awesome. Is there a set of skills that you're currently working on, or that you think, I would like to acquire this? It would enhance my quiver of talents.
Yeah, I'm doing a number of things. One, I'm learning to be better at pitching ideas. So I can, pitch something casually to a friend or a business contact. Hey, we should work together or whatever. And in working on TV series, was a part of the pitch process for a number of big pitches. But getting inspired about my own ideas, creating my own pitches, I need to learn how to be effective, efficient, impassioned, and also to not take things personally when the idea isn't all there yet. And that's a really interesting process, because when it's somebody else's idea and you're listening to the pitch and you're looking at the structure and you're learning from it or dissecting it or whatever, it's totally different than putting yourself out there for a thing you really believe in and preparing yourself for people to say no. No, it's not for us. No, it's not the time. No, the parts aren't all there. Stranger Things, the show on Netflix, heard no from every single network. Everybody was like, you cannot have a show that focuses on kids that isn't marketed to kids. No one's going to watch. Adults don't want to watch a show about kids, and kids don't want to watch a show about monsters. So that's a no. They heard no from everybody. Eventually, Netflix was like, oh, good work. And so if you have a thing you really care about or are excited about, learning to pitch and learning to weather the process of pitching will be really important.
Can you help me really quick on a pitch that I'm working on?
Yeah, what's up?
So it's a book idea, and I've heard that publishers are looking for a book about transformative experiences, transformative travel, and transformative festivals, and that type of thing.
Cool.
But I'm trying to refine the angle to make it, like we mentioned earlier, good for the reader. You know, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
What's your first thought about what would be interesting to write about there?
I think it, for me, shouldn't just feel like it's about, for example, white people going other places. Transformative travel is a term that is really cool and important, and it's magical that we're focusing on it now as travelers. But I think it's often it comes about that the stories are like, I'm from small town Ohio. I'm a Caucasian girl, and like, honestly, I don't want to hear from everybody who looks or sounds like me about, oh my God, this thing really totally opened my eyes. What does it look like for people to have transformative experiences outside of their communities who look like different people, maybe who are from different parts of the globe? I saw a video yesterday about this little old couple. They're almost 70, I think, and they live in India, and they save their money, what little they earn, to travel. Because the guy, 40 some years ago, when he started selling chai masala in these little cups on the side of the road, he dreamed of travel and couldn't afford it. For him, travel has been transformative. He still owns and runs this little tea shop in India. He still doesn't earn much money, but for him, transformative life experiences have come from travel. I want to see what it looks like to have a transformative experience from all different types of people in all different types of locations, because I think that A, that makes it more interesting, and in a literal and metaphorical sense, both more colorful, but also B, it makes us feel connected because we recognize at the end of the day, like the breath of fresh air, the catharsis at the end for me would be, all of us really are the same.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. It's okay. One person's take, though. One person's take, right? So you're doing the right thing by going beyond yourself, out of the echo chamber of your mind, and asking for input. Hey, what would make you want to read this? Ask people you value. Ask people you're scared to ask because they're really good storytellers, right? Ask around and maybe make a list of common themes, or continue digging in and doing research online of books that are selling nowadays that include maybe photo essays. I got this really, really cool book for Christmas, and it's portraits of women around the world. And the photographs are stunning. The stories are breathtaking or heartbreaking or inspiring. But the common thread is like, wow, these visuals and these stories always make me feel like I spent my time really well looking through this.
I like thinking that there would be a strong visual component in there as well.
If it's all words and it's about the world, I don't think you're serving yourself as well as you could if you include images. That's not to say all words don't do well. I love reading. but you have a unique opportunity to incorporate the colors and the scenes and the human moments from the world, and putting them in the book will offer an additional option to elevate the storytelling and bring the reader along.
It seems almost like it could be like a little mini series of videos too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. Anytime you go anywhere and you meet people and they say, I love travel. It doesn't matter whether they work at a shop or they work on a sheep farm or they're a student or they're living out of their van traveling full time. The opportunity is there for you to very consistently commit yourself to helping people share their stories, if that's something you want to do.
Wonderful. This is really great. I have a second piece of advice I'd like to ask you about. We are planning to travel this year as a family. So I've got 2 little kids and my wife.
How old?
A newborn.
How old?
And 2-year-old.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a cute, squishy age,
Definitely cute. The 2-year-old probably will be a handful on the airplanes.
Oh yeah.
And so we had a great travel experience where we lived in Croatia and then Hungary a couple of years ago, and we lived in Bali last year. So we're thinking of going back to Europe, starting somewhere on the Mediterranean or somewhere warm, and then going somewhere cooler for the heat of the summer. So high elevation somewhere, Alps or mountains, wherever. But so there's the whole Schengen zone. You can only spend 90 days out of every 180. So we're thinking, okay, 2 countries, one inside the zone, one outside the zone.
Cool.
What are your thoughts on?
So I can't remember. Is Bulgaria inside the Schengen zone?
Bulgaria is outside.
It's outside. So Bulgaria is one of the places that has just blown me away, and I want to go back and spend more time. When I went there a number of years ago, I was like, what? Why does no one talk about Bulgaria? Gorgeous mountains and scenery and these red rocks jutting out of the earth and medieval cities. And, I don't know what it would be like living there in Sofia, for example, which is the capital, because I didn't spend time in the big cities, but the landscapes blew me away. So if you're looking to go a place that is a bit unexpected, that might provide a little elevation to escape the heat of summer, definitely worth looking into Bulgaria. I love that you lived in Hungary. It is such a cool place. I would say, Scandinavia is Schengen. Yes, all of it.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
So, Scandinavia is pretty rad. So if that counts as your Schengen zone choice, that's great. You could start somewhere outside of the Schengen zone and then go further north to Scandinavia as your Schengen zone choice as it gets hotter, because then you get into Norway or Sweden or Finland or Denmark, and you have more hours of daylight in the middle of the summer. Right. You get 24 hours of daylight if you go far enough north, and it's not going to be as hot as further south.
Right. All the Norwegians that I know are plugging for Norway.
Now Norway's expensive, but it's beautiful. I don't know what it's like to live there. I know that for travelers it's spendy. I think Sweden surprised me not being as expensive as I thought it was going to be. I'm going to Finland for the first time next month. Denmark I loved, but Copenhagen's also expensive. So as you're allocating budget and stuff, know that the further north you go, the more expensive it'll be. But the quality of life is really great if you can make that work. It's just such a beautiful corner of the globe.
Okay, yeah, that is always the question, because a lot of these places, it's cheaper even than the Midwest. So we put our house on Airbnb, and then we can actually earn money by going, somewhere cheap to live.
Brilliant. Yep, I support that.
So we were talking before the show about how you recently experienced a change in the way you look at your work, and you used to be more goal oriented, and now you're being more patient. How did that come about? Why now?
So I've always been goal oriented. I think being goal oriented has served me. It can serve anybody. And there's still certain goals that exist for me, but everything else is kind of shaking away or becoming more nebulous, becoming less specific. And what I mean by that is, instead of looking ahead at the year or the next 5 years or whatever and being like, I have to do this and then that and then this and then that, and having every week filled and feeling like I'm always accomplishing or doing, I'm giving myself more space to exist and breathe and really suss out whether things feel right for me, whether I feel like they are giving energy as well as asking it of me. I'm in a cool place that any entrepreneur who has been in their line of work for a few years can start to realize. And that place is, you don't have to say yes to everything anymore. You can now begin to say yes to the things that matter to you, whether it's financially or emotionally or for your resume, and say no to the things that are less important or don't pay as well. So now I'm in a place where I can kind of sit back and not say yes to everything. I'm starting to also see that I have held tight to expectation. We all do this. We have expectations about everything. And my homework this year and moving forward is to let go of expectations because they're not serving me. I can have goals to learn more or become better at what I'm doing, to be more patient. Goals in that sense, great. But to expect a certain outcome isn't serving me. And so I'm allowing the things that don't serve me, like that, to slip away to the best of my ability. It takes work. It's that deep work. It's that uncomfortable stuff where if you're used to being a certain way your whole life and then you realize it's not helping, it's hard to train yourself away from it. But I'm beginning that training, quote unquote, now to kind of sit back and lessen my control on things and be like, why am I in a rush? Where am I rushing to? It's good to be where I am right now, whether it's at home and my husband is here and we get to actually hang out because I'm not on the road, or it's on a trip. I don't want to be thinking about the next assignment. I'd rather be there in that space. And so I think we could all learn to be better at not rushing. It's hard when our society and our economy depend on that. They depend on the mindset that everything is go, 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 that it's more important to move than to sit still. But if we never sit still, then we really don't make time for our own minds, our own hearts, our own relationships to talk to us about what we really need.
Was there a particular moment or incident that changed your thinking about this?
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend. There were a couple things that happened last year that were lessons in patience. One, I got surgery, and I'm used to being incredibly active. And also, I'm fortunate to say I'm used to being capable, right? I have 4 working limbs. And so if I want to go do a thing, I can. And I had a shoulder surgery that meant that it was a long process of rehab. And it was within the joint. And so it was like, in 6 months, you'll be able to work out like you're used to again. In a year, you should be pretty much normal, maybe better than normal, if you don't push it with the rehab process. If you go to physical therapy and you don't do things that are going to stress the joint and so on. So that taught me patience in a physical way where I'm used to doing. And I had to learn that not doing was important. I had to learn that sometimes strength is in being vulnerable, in asking for help, saying, I can't carry this, or knowing that the week following a surgery or an event, you just aren't going to be able to do anything. So you got to ask for help. I learned there's strength in not trying to do it all myself. And from there, I started to really focus energy on this particular pitch that I was making. And it's shaking out differently than expected. And in some ways that's been really hard, but I'm also really trying to create a space for these cool stories of individuals around the world in this pitch for a TV series, right? I'm trying to create a cool space. And a friend said to me when we were talking just about a month ago, well, what if the way that you're looking at it isn't actually allowing you to be of service in the way that would be best for the project? Because I've had a particular viewpoint of how I would like to be a part of it. And that was unsettling hearing her say. It was upsetting, and it was also relieving, because suddenly I was like, oh, maybe I don't have to put this pressure on myself to be this one thing. And the more that I sat with that idea, the less uncomfortable or sad or weird it became, because I've lived with this concept in my skull for a couple years now. And now I'm in a place where I'm like, cool, I could actually be available in whatever ways this needs or doesn't need, instead of holding so tight to expectations about how it should look in the end.
And to clarify, was it you were thinking of being the host and now you're thinking of being the executive producer or something like that?
The goal has been to be the host and the executive producer. The client that we're talking with always has celebrity hosts. Will Smith being one of them. I think he is fantastic at hosting what he's hosting right now, and recognize I am not a household name like Will Smith. So if
until you get the Art of Adventure bump. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and then people are going to be like, Will Smith, who? But it's one of those things where recognizing that, gosh, if they brought somebody on who's Will Smith stature, who's a total badass human that people know and want to follow on these stories, that would be really cool. Really cool. And it would be okay if it's not me. When I was pitching this concept, though, to Thrillist, for example, which is young, male skewing, and they're looking at getting into digital content and so on and so forth in different ways, right? If they're like, what if we had a dude host? I'm like, well, the subject matter doesn't align with having a male host in this particular context. And if you just want to throw somebody that you know and like in there, I cannot say with gut instinct behind me that sounds right for the stories. But if it's a client that honors stories, that wants to put somebody with cachet and skill behind those stories, I should start letting go of what my expectations were and allow whatever it becomes to become that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
That's cool to hear how that process is evolving for you.
Everybody in your audience, everybody who's listening, nod your head right now. If you have had something turn out differently than you expected.
Everybody's
I'm nodding. Yeah. Don't be scared. So, sometimes that means, it ends up a funny story. Sometimes it means that you miss a flight, you catch a different flight, you meet someone you didn't expect to meet and it's exciting, or you break up on the road. There are all kinds of things that can go differently than expected. The more weight that we as individuals or travelers or entrepreneurs put on that one outcome being the right outcome, then no matter how cool it ends up, it isn't the right outcome, quote unquote. It's wrong because it didn't go like we expected. So we could all stand to kind of let go of our illusion of control for long enough to let things become what they're going to.
Boom. That's a great place it's a strong message to wrap on. So Rachel, where can people find you online?
You can find me, friends, at Rachel Roams, which is RACHEL ROAM as in Michael S. And Roams the verb. It's not my last name. But RachelRoams.com is also a place you can go check out if you have any interest in my background and stuff. But I post to Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, all under the handle Rachel Roams. And I look forward to hearing from you. So say hi.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Rachel. Of course, she's super awesome. Make sure you check out the rest of her work and her Instagram and all the things like that. If you are inspired to get out there and be an influencer and get your travel on and produce interesting stories and content, I've got a Adventure Quest trip brewing just for you. It's coming up in Morocco in October. Moroctober, we're calling it, specifically for people that want to be outdoors, adventure, travel influencers. We are going to be training you about the specifics of the social media and business side. And then on the trip, we're going to be doing adventures and taking lots of photos and learning photo skills and creating content that you can start using to be an influencer. So depending on when you listen to this, check out the adventurequesttravel.com website for info about the trip. If it's not up yet, because we're redoing the site, then you can just send me an email. Yes, I want to go. I'm interested. I want to be a travel influencer, just like Derek and Rachel. So that's Derek at derekloudermilk.com is my personal email. And we'll get you on the list of people that are interested in going. We've got about 8 spots, I think. And should be super awesome. 10 days, 7 days, I'm not sure exactly, in Morocco in October 2019. That is all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Now it's your turn to go out there and be adventurous.